people that are brand new, and they're being recognized and given an award. It's tomorrow night on ABC.
ABC. Is this live? Where are they holding these?
Yeah. Hey, we're recording the podcast. Shut up.
Good morning to you, wherever you are, because it is
morning somewhere.
For December 12th, 2024. My name is Bernie Burns, sitting right over there. Yeah, it's Barbara Dunkelman. Burp Duncan Snack, as she is in my phone and has been for now 15 probably years.
More than that.
I have to remember every time. I have not changed it. I literally have to go to, watch this. Hey Siri, send a message to Burp Duncan Snack.
What do you want to say? Oh, I thought she was going to say, what do you want to say to Burp Duncan Snack? I thought she was going to say it too, yeah. But that's how you are in my phone. So in public, I have to, like, if I'm dictating to Siri, I have to say it that way. Hey, Barb, how you doing? Hey, Burns, like my little prank there, the yell. That's my prank.
You pulled the old switcheroo.
The old switcheroo. Said it as low key as possible.
Very demure approach to Morning Somewhere.
Very mindful.
It's a little tough to follow your co-cast member, Blaine Gibson. Everyone loved his very much.
I'm doing a lot of really challenging follow-ups. Like, I have to follow Jeff Ramsey on this show.
Is that hard?
Yes.
Motherfucker talked for an hour and a half. Let me tell you something. I've got this podcast down to where Ashley and I, when we do it, we do about 22 minutes to get to 20, and I'll mark it and say, like, this is going nowhere, so I mark it.
I don't need to know the romantic details.
No, nice of you to assume it's 22 minutes.
Damn, that's impressive.
The 2 minutes that we cut, now you know what that is. You're great, though. Like, when you came in here the first time, you were one of the first guests, and I said, we do about 20 minutes, and boom, Barbara Dunkelman, professional broadcaster, 20 minutes.
Listen, I like to do what people tell me to do when it comes to productions, because it's their productions, first of all.
Right.
So it's whatever you prefer. I'm happy to keep talking, and I will keep talking.
You're certainly capable of it.
I am. But also, like, sometimes I'm like, okay, I've said enough.
As opposed to Jeff Ramsey, who comes in and goes, yeah, fuck all that.
Well, to be fair, Jeff Ramsey has multiple podcasts, one of which he does by himself, which is a talent I will never have.
That's a word for it. Psychosis also. The American Psychiatric Association has identified that as a huge red flag, having your own solo podcast.
I feel like there's a number of people I could count on one hand who could probably host a podcast by themselves. You're one of them. I think, obviously, Jeff.
This was almost solo.
Really?
It was almost. But you know who killed that idea?
Ashley?
No, JD. He's like, no, gross.
Smart boy.
He was like, no. Who wants to listen to you? No. So Ashley was a wonderful addition to the podcast.
Yeah. Oh, no, she's my favorite part of it.
Who's your other person? I think I could probably guess it.
Miles Luna.
Miles Luna could definitely do it, man.
Yeah, and Michael Jones.
And Mikey Jones. Yeah. Mikey Jones could do it.
Professional yappers, I would call them.
That's a great way to put it. Mm-hmm. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, Miles, I have a very specific memory of him. Head writer for some of the biggest productions at RWBY. Basically, head writer of all of animation.
Very talented guy.
And now, can we say what he's the voice of? Globally?
Yeah.
Kind of regionally globally, but like internationally, we should say.
I think he's talked about it publicly.
In the UK, the Duracell Battery Corporation has a bunny, whereas in America,
it's the Energizer.
Energizer has a bunny. And Miles Luna is the voice of the Duracell bunny in the UK for sure. I guess all of EU.
You just blew my mind. I didn't even think about how they're two separate battery companies with a bunny, but in a different country.
Also in the UK, they don't use the bunny for Energizer. It's a battery with like lightning bolts flying off of it. Hell? And in Duracell, it's just the copper top. That's what they do here. There's no Duracell bunny here at all.
Right.
Yeah, but Miles Luna is just like, believe it or not, kind of hyper bunny who jumps around on screen. Yeah. And,
not typecast at all.
He does it very well.
Yes.
His, not to make this all about Miles, but my first experience with Miles in front of an audience was incredible because it was the RTX that we had in a field next to the 636 studio.
May 2011.
Was it May?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was Labor Day.
How is it so hot?
Not Labor. What's the end of May?
Memorial Day?
Memorial Day weekend.
You sure maybe it's backwards? Is our Memorial Day? Because like Armistice Day is later in the UK. It's weird holidays in the US. I always get them flipped too. Yeah.
Because Labor Day's in September.
Yeah, I think you're right. We have the internet right here. We could look it up. But it's more fun and entertaining to be wrong. Give people something to comment about. But the thing that shocked me about that is you say it was in May. It was so hot.
It was awful. Well, one of my favorite memories / least favorite memories was when we were doing that RTX, we filmed an immersion where the attendees were zombies. And so a lot of their clothes had these holes and cuts and rips and stuff like that. And no one thought to put sunscreen in the holes.
Right.
And so the next day when it was a pool party, people had these like little circles and lines and like fingerprint sunburns all over them. It was awful, but hilarious to see.
As I remember, kids, always put sunscreen in the holes. That's the lesson from RTX.
Once you're done with your 22 minutes.
RTX 2011?
Yeah.
Yeah. I got a book right there, right in front of you. Demono and Red brought that down. And it's signatures from a lot of people who ended up being part of Rooster Teeth when they were at fan events. It was like a little journal yearbook thing they brought around to every RTX event, going back to RWBY Toronto, which was kind of the granddaddy of them all, the fan event that kind of inspired RTX.
Yeah, 2015. Yeah, 2005. What am I saying?
It goes back. I've got one. There's a framed poster here in my house. That's I think it's 2009 from that one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're in there.
Beautiful gift, and you sent me some photos from some pages in there, which I'm not too proud of.
We all evolve.
The juxtaposition of man is me in that book. You have a very nice, sweet, touching message, which I stand by those words to this day. And then you have a full-on spread of multiple dicks in the shape of RVBTO drawn by me.
Barbara used to draw dicks all the time. All the time. How did that start?
I really don't know.
Okay.
It went on for, I think, a little too long.
I agree with that.
And I don't know what switched, but something happened where I don't know if it's like I reached the age of 30. Because I don't actually remember when I made
30.
And I was like, what am I doing? Why did I ever do that? Like, I get it when I was like a teenager and it was haha silly, but like I kept doing it up into like my mid to late 20s.
Standout stuff, you know what I mean? We all do things that
shock
make us,
humor.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we all learn, and outgrow it, and we look back at it and go,
yeah. People change.
Yeah.
It's a fun thing to remind people of on the internet.
But in the middle of all that heat, because we were doing a production as well, we were testing the zombie horde mechanics of video games.
Yeah.
So we had our zombie horde out there versus Jeff and Gus. And Miles, like, we just said, hey, can you just like vamp and entertain people? And he picked up a mic, and the rest is history. Like,
oh my God.
He just emceed that entire event like he had been prepping for weeks. It was crazy. It was crazy.
You guys, he was like an intern at the time, right?
I think Miles' first job at the company was as a University of Texas student, came in and was helping us transfer files from old hard drives to new hard drives.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that's the first thing he was doing. And then within years was head writer for Red vs. Blue, head writer for RWBY, head of development for animation, developed shows like Nomad of Nowhere, Camp, as well as being a cast member and everything else. So yeah, it's incredible.
Very
really
talented
incredible.
boy.
Yeah. And probably also one of the first people who like got slapped with the moniker of New Burnie. And it's like, I tried to dismiss that or try to discourage people from like leaning into that.
Yeah.
Even later, one of the only things I said no to after I left the company was they wanted to have somebody play me as a character in a show. And I'm like, that's not good for them. Please don't do that.
Let them be their own personality. Yeah.
It's low hanging fruit, and then it gets to be a fight. It's just you got to undo it at some point. It's a problem. You know what I mean? We
had to separate ourselves from you at some point.
Yeah, and plus
we had to quit you, Burnie.
It doesn't help that once all of us grow beards, we all look the fucking same anyway.
You're telling me. I've been trying for years.
Yeah, that's why you have to differentiate yourself, Barbara. You really didn't stand out at all. You had to draw dicks everywhere in order to stand out.
I didn't have one, so I had to make one for myself.
So how are you doing? Because it seems like Stinky Dragon is tearing it up. Barbara is one of the co-owners and hosts of Stinky Dragon, cast members, I should say, is probably a better term, of the Stinky Dragon podcast.
Yep, Tales from the Stinky Dragon.
I noticed you guys are all like posting vacation photos. Are you in a like between campaigns right now?
No, we're putting out our third campaign right now. We're in the midst of it. We're not taking any like weeks off for the podcast. It's going to come out every other week as it does with. We have a show called Second Wind, which is our like Patreon / Beacon TV exclusive show. Beacon TV is Critical Role's platform that we're also partnered on. But yeah, we're personally as like a company trying to take a month off because we could do that.
Right.
Because we're our own business owners. But the process of that has also been like a lot of banking up stuff and recording ahead and getting ahead on all this stuff, which is always like the double-edged sword to vacations.
But it's totally normal in a production environment, right?
Very much.
Most people we got so used to working in employment-based entertainment where we were just 365 days a year. We had jobs, but most people in entertainment, and luckily you don't have to do this, is they finish a gig, they have a break, they go find their next gig and they do it,
Yeah.
Or they have breaks between seasons if they're on a long-running popular television show, for instance.
It's very true.
So I'm glad to hear that you guys are doing that.
Yeah, and we're having a blast. I mean, we're so grateful that we get to call this our job and to have this be like our careers, playing D&D and playing make-believe with each other. It's just, it's so much fun. And we're also really excited to be working more with Critical Role. We hope to do more with them in 2025. We have some stuff with them coming up. They actually have a show called Narrative Telephone. That's really fun that they started actually in quarantine. It's like one of those shows that was birthed out of the pandemic because they needed something to film remotely. And that's a show that we're going to be part of for a few episodes coming up.
Oh, that's really cool. Can you describe the premise of the show?
Yeah, it's genius, actually. I don't know how Rooster Teeth never thought of it, but one person tells a story, usually ranging between 1.5 to 3 minutes. It's given to the next person. They watch it once, and then they have to retell that story.
Oh, that's interesting. I thought you were going to say they had to pick it up or something. Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah. So it's like Broken Telephone, but with a whole story.
So, and you said, what's the length of the story?
1.5 to 3 minutes.
1.5, 3 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So some people try to really mess you up with
do
like,
they?
so many details.
Okay, that's part of the fun of it, right? Yeah, the
Yeah.
sabotage aspect of it.
Yes.
Well, I'm really glad to see you doing this stuff too, because I didn't know this when it was, big in the 80s, but D&D, I think we've talked about this before, is like a perfect engine for improv.
Yeah.
And I know you had taken a lot of improv classes and you had been growing into, that form of entertainment for a while, and now you get to do it for a living,
Dude,
with
and
all your friends.
I can't tell you how much easier it is to do improv when you're playing a character, like a consistent character.
And you have structure, right? Like you have, the next thing, you get a lot of chances to yes and, because you roll the dice and here it is, and you have to yes and that moment.
You have to go with whatever the result is.
So much fun.
Yeah.
And I love all the animated shorts and the puppets of Stinky Dragon Adventures. And I love
Bernie's
all
our
of that
biggest
stuff.
fan.
I would write Barbara all the time, like, and
You love that video of my character Elga going up the wall you mentioned as a puppet.
it makes me laugh. She scampers up this rope up the wall, and I just see it every time I see it. I just laugh. I don't know what it was about the mechanic. Maybe because I'm like seeing through it and seeing you guys like do it.
It was literally like two arms going like really fast and pulling at the same time. Honestly, like the challenges of puppeting these tiny little felt dolls was so tough, but also like so fun to figure out how to make them maneuver in a certain way.
You know what I would think I like about it? I think it's the most Red versus Blue thing since Red versus Blue.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you have your audio, right? And how do we get these puppets? Ours were digital puppets. That's what they were. I mean, the controller was like the little marionette controls. And how can you get these puppets to realize the vision of what you've got in the audio? And the audio is already hilarious.
Yeah.
So that just adds another layer to it.
Ours was way more dangerous though, because you had Chris Damaris with a box cutter trying to make lanes for the puppet rods in the different like platforms we were using for the floors. Wow. And every time we would be like, hands out from underneath, everyone's out from underneath this thing. Okay.
How do you trust Chris with a blade? That just seems like such a bad idea.
Believe me, I would try to make Blaine do it as much as possible. Chris, put the knife down.
I mean, really, any form of management, you don't need much experience to look at Chris, have a 1-minute conversation with him and go, okay, rule number 1, no edged weapons for him. Forever.
Which is funny because there's a lot of stuff we filmed when we were doing Rooster Teeth Core, like the live action stuff, where we would film like a pumpkin carving video or like something, and Chris would always end up with the most intense bladed tool that you could imagine.
Because he naturally gravitates towards it.
And he'd be like, it's not dangerous. Like I know how to use it. And I'm like, I don't care.
By the way, exactly the same strategy that toddlers employ. I just want to point that out. They'll find the most dangerous thing in the room. What's that?
A knife!
No! Barbara and I share a lot of memes together. Between you and Ashley, it's like you are like top when I go to share something on Instagram.
Yeah.
You guys' profiles are right there because it's like we just share boop with. That's what the drop was from today. Was Gary Busey.
Yeah.
Gary Busey answering David Letterman's question the way I used to answer Barbara on the Rooster Teeth podcast.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this last time. You have the ability to respond in a way or like do something with your face. Yep. Which every time I would notice it on the podcast and just lose it for the next 5 minutes and no one else would know what's going on.
When you work with someone for a long time and you know what the easy laugh is, also a great strategy employed by toddlers. Just go for it until it's completely exhausted. And I knew what would make you laugh because you're such an easy laugh, which is
thank you.
It's an incredible joy in a co-host is to have someone who's there to have a good time.
Listen, man.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the most underappreciated functions of a show, specifically a podcast, is being a good audience to your fellow castmates.
Yeah.
And that's something that like we talk about that a lot with Stinky Dragon, with John Reisinger, who has probably one of the best laughs.
He really does.
In entertainment.
He really does.
And him just laughing at our jokes makes the podcast feel funnier.
Yep.
Even if we're not being that funny.
Yep. It's even some of the more risky jokes that I would tell on the RT podcast, you can usually see John Reisinger's there when I'm doing it. Cause it's like, he'll immediately let you know that it's funny, which is important. It really is. Yeah. It's important. And you don't want to have laugh tracks, but you do want people who are there to have a great time. I just watched the British version of podcasts, which are those panel shows that we don't really have in the US. And there was one, it's the guy from the Mitchell and Webb look. And I don't know the guy's name. It's Mitchell. And he would just laugh at everything. And it was a whole compilation of him just losing his shit. I'll put it in the link dump of him losing his shit.
That's
and it's so
best,
great.
Yeah.
Laughter's contagious, man. And just have a good time. And it's not forcing yourself to laugh. It's letting yourself laugh and breathing and not waiting for your turn to talk,
Exactly.
It's like being in the moment laughing. Yeah. It's great. Well, speaking of being in the moment, we're this week, I don't want to put you on the spot. We are nominating our person of the year, and you can't say John Reisinger. So our person of the year for 2024.
Yeah, well, since I do listen to this podcast every week, I have to say my nomination, Carrie Shawcross. I'm going to give that another.
All right, you're going to put him back in?
Yeah.
His name is back in the hat. Carrie Shawcross. This is your year.
I love Carrie.
He was great.
His episode was so fun to listen to.
I forgot that he's a podcaster because they did fan service for so long. And it was like, I was like, I know Carrie and like talking with him and knowing since he was a teenager, I was thinking like, oh yeah, I've never really been on too many podcasts with him, but we'll work through this. One of the easiest ones of all time.
He's great.
Super great.
Yeah.
Super great. Yeah.
Good. Also one of the most talented people that I know.
What kind? Just nice dude.
Talented. I'm really excited. I hope there's some RWBY news coming in the next year because I know he's just chomping at the bit to work on it, and I know we are too. So
yeah,
gotta get that Tai Yang season in the works, or just the Xiao Long family.
I'm gonna let you talk. I'm passing you money as we sit here.
I'm saying if there's a Tai Yang season, it means Yang's in it.
So as a fan of RWBY as well, and I always have been a fan, I noticed things as well, and I'm going to pump you for a little bit of information as well. I noticed you guys, the cast member, the main cast ladies, Team RWBY, have started doing promotional stuff, which means there must be an official, someone must be asking you to do that. So take that as a good sign, I assume.
Yeah, I'll be completely honest. That's all we did. So we scheduled a whole day of content that we were going to make for social media, specifically like for the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, all that stuff, just to kind of have some stuff on the account and remind people that we're still here.
Sure.
I imagine it's probably a good sign that they want us to do that kind of stuff. But as far as I know, there's no actual news yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
and if I had some news, I would totally drop it on this podcast.
All right. And I'm not seeing any like side eye here, just so you know, in person. She's actually saying she doesn't know. So we'll see. And I can say I don't know.
It's tough because we still go to conventions as Team RWBY, which is great. So we get to meet a lot of fans, and everyone's like, oh, like volume 10 or any RWBY news. And I was like, I wish I could tell you, but I don't work for the company that owns the show anymore. So it was different before when it was Rooster Teeth. And it's like, yeah, I have an insider scoop because we actually work.
And that was always kind of a separate thing for you because you guys have like a separate company that organizes all that stuff for you guys on your behalf, which is one of those things as a person who plays the character. That's a totally normal thing. You go off and make appearances as Barbara Dunkelman. Do you exclusively put like Yang on all your marketing stuff, or is it other stuff as well?
Definitely a big portion of it.
Okay.
But usually if you're a voice actor who's in multiple projects, which I've gotten to be in a few different things, Yang obviously is like the biggest character I play. It's like you have all your imagery of the different characters you are, or like if you were in a movie, you might have like a still from that.
Right.
But the general marketing is usually RWBY.
Or the forefront. Yang is bigger than everybody. I'd be like, I'm Bernie Burns. I played the light blue halo guy. That's who I played.
Or what some conventions do is they just put a picture of Yang. They don't even use my picture.
Is that right? Is that for the special guest? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really a shot in the arm, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm like, I'm glad I'm also a Caucasian woman with blonde hair, so it kind of works out.
Yeah, you could just do a little split screen action there. So fair to say you're, in addition to your Person of the Year nominee being Sherry, I said it again. I did that to him when he was here. I said Sherry Cawcross. Carrie Shawcross. It would also be Yang as well, maybe.
Well, Person of the Year every year.
Every single year.
You guys had a bunch of good ones.
You know what? I found out something that makes me question something.
Oh, no.
My whole year has been thrown under the bus.
What did Carrie do?
No, someone on our subreddit said they were talking about Sherry Cawcross. They were talking about Ray Gun. And Ray Gun threatening the Broadway musical or whatever with legal action that got shut down.
Yeah.
So that's the latest Ray Gun news. Like, she can't stay out of the news. Then someone said, and I didn't know this, I got to investigate this, that she wasn't there because she was the best breakdancer in Australia. She was there because she was the best breakdancer in Australia who managed to pass a drug test. That completely changes the context of Ray Gun being in the Olympics for me. Because if she wasn't like using some kind of influence to force her way into it or, finding some kind of seam and putting herself out there, if she just was the person who was following the rules and therefore qualified, that's entirely different to me.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I need to see if that's the case.
What are all these drugs the Australians are taking?
Hey, let's get on to Australia. We get on a tour. I could
what are these breakdancers
I could be the light blue halo guy. I mean, you could be Barbara Dunkelman appearing as Yang.
Yang Xiaolong.
I haven't done that in a long time. We used to travel a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd ever get back to that. We'll see.
It could be a lot, depending on how many you're doing, but it's nice to get out there from time to time.
Yeah, it's like, I noticed that after I left Rooster Teeth, just even the anecdotal, like walking down the street and people stopping me, it wasn't like tapering off. It kind of stopped. Like it was almost like a wall. As soon as I stopped appearing on camera or being on social media on a regular basis, it dropped off fast, man. Really fast.
Yeah.
And I can't say I was upset about that, to be honest with you, you know?
Yeah, I could kind of take it or leave it. Like, I'm always, if someone recognizes me from Rooster Teeth or some other project, I'm always happy to meet people and talk to people and chat. But it's not like I'm like, I wish people would recognize me.
Well, there's part of it too, though, where it's like it is a validation that like your stuff's getting out there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like one of the great things about Stinky Dragon, Spotify Rap just came out. And it's cool when I look at these things, and it's cool to see where the crossover lies, because like in the top 5, there'll be Morning Somewhere. And of course, we see those a lot because people send those to us.
Of course, they'll tag you. And
yeah. And then we see like, is there a Stinky Dragon that's in there as well? And I've learned that you guys have like 2 different feeds for Stinky Dragon as part of that.
Yeah, I guess the Patreon feed counts as like a whole separate one.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I didn't realize that.
But then it's also, and I think you probably feel this way as well, it's kind of cool when you see that there's no crossover. Right? Because then it's a feeling of like, this is a totally new person who's discovering the stuff.
Like that more.
I get it. I get it, man.
Obviously, I think if people are listening to multiple former Rooster Teeth people in podcast form, I love that. I love to see the support across the board for our fellow creators.
Right.
But I think one of the coolest things that has happened with us, and I think I mentioned this to you, we did a live stream a few weeks ago. And every now and then, if we do a live stream where our cameras are on, we'll have people be like, oh, this is the first time I'm seeing what you guys look like.
Right.
And I love that. Because I'm like, that means you found Stinky Dragon and became a fan completely separate to Rooster Teeth. Like, you're not just like someone who happened to know Rooster Teeth and kind of kept along with our show since the closure. You're someone who found it on your own volition. Mm-hmm. And which means the algorithms are working and the promotions are working. And like, we're getting our show out there on our own, which is really cool. Yeah.
And it's like, it's kind of like, there was another weird layer of that with our buddy Gavin, where people would watch Achievement Hunter and Slow-Mo Guys for maybe a year or two and go, I never connected that that's the same person because they're such different characters. He's actually an actor. His name is Jim Bob Holkins, and he plays both Gavin on Slow-Mo Guys and Gavin on Achievement Hunter.
Jim Bob would be his name.
He's from Tennessee.
He actually has like a super Southern accent, sort of faking the British one the whole time.
No, but I know what you mean. It is nice to see that. And the interesting thing, the correlation to earlier Rooster Teeth with that is when we did Red versus Blue, it was animated and people didn't know what we looked like unless they saw an old picture from our avatars or something like that. But even our avatars were like symbols or images.
It was the RT podcast was the first video, or is the shorts?
Well, the correlation here is I would imagine that more people who were new to Stinky Dragon knew what Gus looked like because his puppet looks like him. And in early RT, Gus was like the face of Rooster Teeth because he had been the only person in a live action short, which was the Apple Switch ad parody.
Right.
So we would walk in places and people would know Gus. And he was like, well, here's the guy who writes and directs the shows. And they were like, okay, fuck you. Hey, Gus, what's going on?
What's really cool too is oftentimes if we put out a short that goes viral on YouTube or TikTok or wherever, without fail, there will be at least a few comments going, is that Simmons from Red vs. Blue?
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny. That goes way back.
They recognize the voice and maybe they never got into Rooster Teeth or they just knew Red vs. Blue. Or some people will say like, is that Gus Sorolla? And we have to be like, yeah, he's our DM. Come listen to our show.
It just goes to show, he's kept it together, man.
Famous guy.
All these years. No, he looks the same and he's holding up physically,
It's true.
Or he declined early and maintained plateau.
Perpetually old.
I wonder if Gus has, I'll have to reach out to him and talk to him. I wonder if with the, we have to talk about some current event. If with the now in custody accused CEO shooter, I wonder if like there's an eyebrow affinity between like, did anyone stop Gus on the street just based on eyebrows? And
well, if he was still wearing a face mask, who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
If all you have to go on are the eyebrows,
Although I think from the videos you saw that the shooter was a pretty like broad dude.
Yeah? What are you saying? Go ahead.
I mean, Gus is a tall, skinny guy. He's always been kind of like the similar body type. So I don't think, just based on that, the eyebrows alone might have done it. But
also, I don't think Gus has a lot of crossover in the Venn diagram with a vigilante. Maybe just the excessive,
as far as we know,
excessive journaling. That's about it.
Who knows? There might be more than one.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of people who thought that was going to be a movement, and it's interesting now because now we're starting to see the turn a little bit. And there's not as quite as much fervor as there was at the beginning of it. I'm on that side of TikTok now, which I'm hoping eventually to get off. I just want to get off TikTok eventually because I think it's rotting my brain. You guys talk about brain rot. It's a real thing. Where I'm in I've fallen into the side of the conspiracy theories about this guy. And people talking about like, the monopoly money. And he was found in Pennsylvania. And like, how do you get out of jail? You roll doubles. Well, what's going to happen on 12/12? Like all this stuff that people seriously.
Yeah, it's deep. Yeah, it's very deep.
The really nutty conspiracy theorists really love numerology a lot. Yeah. By the way, I shaded you a little bit.
Oh, I heard.
So you knew it was you, right?
Oh, yeah.
So Barbara was the astrology person I was like very demurely calling out. So every now and then Barbara has an astrology post and I'm like, really, Barbara?
Oh, it's usually, I'm a Cancer. For those of you who haven't
looked at my
social media. Exactly. But, obviously, like these things come in my feed of these various astrology posts. And like sometimes the Cancer one will have like cute imagery and like details about like your vibe for the month. And it's more of just like, oh, this is cute and I like it and I relate to this, so I'm going to post it. But there are some friends I have who are like very into astrology and who I find when they talk about it, it's fascinating.
You're not the worst one on my feed, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
There's people who are like it's like 6 of those stories in a row of like Mercury in retrograde and like Venus is mad at Uranus or something like that. Or I don't know what's going on.
They're in a feud.
Yeah, there's a whole beef there that we don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
But that does remind me too, because I love the cuteness of your Instagram stories. Like there's little frogs who are like just trying their best.
Oh, that's I think what I love about social media now. I just like the cozy, cute, like relatable, silly content now. That's what I'm into.
We talked earlier about trying to like, not force it, but just be in the moment, like laughing and like allowing yourself to be entertained when you're doing these kinds of things and how that's important. There was a long period of time where I had a negative reaction to affirmational content. Like, you're the best and you're doing your best. And I was just like, like that, like just ran counter to my, upbringing. And I had like a visceral reaction to it.
Interesting.
I'm trying to be better and like lean into that and allow myself to be inspired.
Hey, Burnie, you're doing your best.
I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best. It all just seemed like platitudes.
Yeah.
To me, you know what I mean? And people like keeping each other down through niceness.
I get that. But yeah. I think the reason why I've shifted so much to that, I think, is more and more I truly believe the power of the mind and what you tell yourself to be true. will be true. So if you tell yourself you're the victim and like everything's out to get you and all these bad things keep happening to you, and then you're going to notice when bad shit happens to you.
Yeah.
Versus like, oh no, like I'm doing my best. I'm proud of myself. I'm working hard. I'm lucky that I have these things. I'm grateful for what I have. Then you're going to notice when you have things in life that you're grateful for, or when things happen to you that you feel lucky to, be able to do or achieve.
The greatest power you have is over yourself.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Especially for affecting change.
I'm going to take that quote and put it over a picture of a frog and then post it tomorrow.
With a little heart coming off of it.
Or it's like licking a popsicle or something. I don't know.
Yeah. That leads me, though, down this rabbit hole, and we can end on this. Your brand, All Good, No Worries, is something that you kept after Rooster Teeth. Any plans with that so far? Because you've done some releases here and there.
Yeah.
And kept it going. Any plans for bringing media back, or are you going to keep that as a merch brand?
I appreciate you bringing it up. Allows me to give it a little plug. But yeah, I got the All Good, No Worries brand, including Always Open as a show. I would like to eventually maybe bring that back. I have no plans to right now, but maybe in the next few years I'll revisit that idea. Right now I do have a store with merch from a lot of like the old imagery and graphics that were designed for All Good No Worries, which is just allgoodnoworries.com. And I'm hoping to do more. To like just make some cute, fun merch that I like that I would want to buy.
Right. And there you go. So you get to make it, and therefore you get to have it, and then you get to share it with other people as a bonus as well.
I've been trying to crack the code of how to get on the Instagram shopping since I feel like that's a really good opportunity for that kind of stuff.
You probably have to buy placements. That's the way to do it. I'm ashamed to admit, one of the stories I sent you was the pressure of Secret Santa. Are you having pressure with gift giving right now?
I don't know what to do.
I know.
Because we go to Trevor's family for Christmas.
Yeah.
And they always like are so wonderful with the gifts that they get us. They're always so thoughtful. And I always feel bad being like, I don't know what anybody wants. And then Trevor's like, I've asked, and they don't necessarily know what they want. And then it ends up just being like gift cards, which personally I think is a great gift. But I don't know.
I'm embarrassed to admit how much stuff I buy because of an Instagram ad.
Oh yeah, same.
I have a great gift that I got for Ashley that I saw 6 months ago on Instagram, and I saved it. So then it saves it in my little category. I'll show it to you, or I can tell you. Ashley, if you're listening to this, stop listening right now.
Cover your ears or take off your headphones. I don't know.
She's actually better about this. I've been wanting to tell her for 5 months, and she won't let me. So I know she'll stop listening. So I can say all sorts of mean things about her now. It's a clock that can sit where she reads, and it's a clock that tells the time by pulls passages from books that have the time in that passage.
What?
So it's like the little paragraph, and then in bold is the time as it's written in the passage from that book. Like the bunny in Alice in Wonderland, it's late. It's 5 to 1, and that's highlighted in the passage. So that's the way the clock works.
I'm gonna have to look into this. That sounds
it's called Author Clock.
Author Clock.
Author Clock, and there's different sizes of it too. So
Hello,
I found it on
I'm
Instagram.
Author Clock.
For someone that went, hello, I'm Arthur B. Clock of the TikTok clan. But they should advertise a clock on TikTok. That makes way more sense.
I think that's too on the nose.
Is that too on the nose? Okay, fair enough. All right, well, Barb, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for always being such a wonderful guest.
I still have another hour of talking. What are we doing?
No, God, to edit those. Imagine to edit an hour and a half podcast, I have to listen to it for at least an hour and a half. That fucker. There's a reason why his podcasts don't come out for fucking 8 years after we record them, and that's why. But I always appreciate you. You're always one of our favorite guests. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Happy to be back.
All right, well, that does it for us today. December 12th, 2024. I will be back to talk to you tomorrow with a special guest. Hope you'll be here as well.
Maybe I'll be here again. Who knows? I won't. Bye.